All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started right at 5:30 today. My name is Corey Woodley, and I'm the chairwoman of Pullman Police Advisory. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for those of you who are watching online. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. Did everyone get a chance to look at the minutes from June 11th? Do I hear any issues or any changes anybody wants made on those? Okay.
Make a motion to approve the minutes
Here.
as stated.
Second.
I hear a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. This is always so easy every time. So I also, I work for the Police Basin Aquifer Committee, and I write the minutes. Darby never has any changes to her minutes, but the committee members always find changes to the minutes I write. And I want that to be public record, because it gets aggravating.
I'm sure it's not personal.
Oh, right. I purposefully go through Darby's looking for something just so I feel that indication, but I think she knows that I'm doing that, so now she's like,
Extra careful.
yeah. Anyway, thank you, Darby, we appreciate that. So we still, we have that new member application that we, from the person that had applied. I think you had an interview about 3 months ago now, so we appreciate you coming here today. Sorry that we have monthly meetings, so it can be hard to get people here to talk to us about their applications. And I believe it is Tarek or Tarek?
Tarek, yes.
Tarek, okay. Would you mind just standing up here and sharing with the committee just a bit about your interest in the Police Advisory Committee today?
Hi, everyone.
Tarek, if we could have you stand there, because we do have audio and we do record
Okay.
this.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. My name is Tarek Beljasim. I got a PhD degree in mechanical engineering from WSU. I am currently working as a technology license assistant in Office of Commercializations at WSU. I have been here like more than 8 years in Pullman. My responsibility and job are to protect and transfer the discovery that we are created by WSU researcher to companies that can turn this discovery to a product or service that not only save our life like a drug, but also improve the way we live, work, and play, and on daily basis. Also, I am an educated person with a family of 4, my wife and 3 kids. My daughter Dua, 11 years, and my son Muhammad, 9 years, and the youngest one is troublemaker. He is in 7 years. My wife Samia got master's degree in mechanical engineering as well from WSU. Recently, she got a part-time job as a substitute teacher in Pullman School District. My wife and I will never forget what Pullman and WSU community have done for us when my country, Libya, encountered the evolution in 2011. It was a very difficult moment that darkened our future, but with the Pullman community, help from Pullman community, we managed to perform remarkably our study, as we scored a GPA for over 4 in both degree, my wife and I. During these situations, we appreciate this help and how these people help us, and that learned a lot of us. So for that reason, we have decided to stay in and live in Pullman because we learned from living here that helping other people is the simple way to learn, teach, and bring people together. which is the good environment for raising our kids. So I am confident in my professional and personal experience that make me suitable candidating as a member of this community, and through my educational and cultural experience, I will try to bring to Pullman office attention feedback from Pullman community concerning public safety issues and law enforcement needs and actions from my diversity cultural perspective. So I am eager to about enjoying this community, and I am looking forward to work for each one. Thank you for your listening, and if you have any question, I am glad to answer it.
Tari, can you talk about also the Language and Cultural Center that you're involved in?
Yes. When I came here, I try to keep my kids, to keep our language, kids Arabic. So I feel I came here with two kids, Dua and Mahmoud. Dua was 3 years and Mahmoud 2 years. So I try to keep them our language, Arabic, to learn in the English language. And as you know, the kids at these ages is easy to have another language. Is the same as biolanguage learning. So I started establishing the Arabic school in Pullman. I started to encourage people to have these kids and encourage them to volunteer in Arabic school. So I have started with the 12 kids and 2 teachers in Pioneer Center. And the people on Pioneer Center, they help us, give us these classes and this supplement in the Pioneer Center for like 1 year. Rented these classes in Saturday and Sunday. And after that, I try to convince other people, is not Arabic language, to come to the school. Now we have like 60 students in Pullman School District, and we are rented now Franklin School in Saturday. And also we have 12 teachers and 5 administrators. I co-founder for this Arabic school in Pullman, and we have Arabic classes for non-Arabic speaker. The idea also for this, I need to grip this culture, different culture between Arabic and the school, and also help the pre-service teachers to work in our classes in Arabic school, because we live in Pullman, we have this diversity of a lot of Arabic, and in Arabic family we have, I think, is now 20, based on our information from school, we have 23 families and 5 single. We try to engaging these kids, that the new coming here to our community, to bring this gap between different cultures. And we help to the education school in WSU to have like training with the pre-service teacher in our school. So this is the one of my leadership, and also I was president of Arab Culture and Language Organization in WSU, and now also they elected me again for the 3rd time as vice president for Arabic this organization in WSU. This is all about the Arabic school and all the activity here in Pullman.
That's great. It's wonderful. We have questions?
When did you start the Arabic school? What
We
year?
started in the fall 2013 in Pioneer Center. And end of 2014, we moved to Franklin Elementary School. And until now, we still working in these positions. And also through our organization, we have all the facility in WSU. We can use it if we have like more people need to have Arabic classes for non-speaker Arabic language. So we can use all the classrooms in WSU through our organization.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate all that information. So at this point, we're just going to have a discussion, and we'll have you step into the hallway so we can have a committee discussion, and then Chief Jenkins will come out and grab you as soon
Okay.
as we are done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm just making the signal that we're going to go off recording.
Congratulations, you are the alternate multiracial representative, and I'll put a chair over here for you.
More like celebration.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a full committee, so we're really excited about this. This is something that we've been working toward for a long time, and we're really happy to have you, and so thank you for joining us. All right. So before I pass this off to Gary Jenkins and talk about the Police Department Annual Report, if you guys didn't get a copy of that, that was sitting at the front here when you walked in, so if anyone wants to grab that, you're welcome to grab a copy of that. I just wanted to talk to you guys about, last month we had a discussion about future meeting topics. We've done this thing over the last, I don't know, year and a half of me being in this position where we have more themed meetings talking about specific issues. And I've been contemplating how to reach out to the community members, you know, just so that they know when we're having guests, you know, what issues are we talking about and how we can get community members here to be aware, you know, what are the things that, topics that we're going to be going over as themed topics in our meetings. And I thought about asking you guys what you thought of me doing a monthly press release, just maybe a week before our meeting, just telling the local press, you know, who we're having, what topic we're talking about, just so that we feel like we're putting that out there in case they want to do some sort of column on what specifically we're talking about at the meeting, because there's going to be a lot of people that would see this is the topic of interest to me, and this may be a meeting I want to come to if they have code questions and things like that. And did you guys ever do that in the past, Gary, or is this?
No, we never did press
We do
releases.
send an email out, though, to
Right.
a media list that has the agenda for the meeting.
Okay.
But
So
that's
maybe-
a pretty limited media list though, right? It's just for the required public
Yeah, I
notifications
don't
for
remember
public
how many
meetings.
are on it.
Because our press release email list is pretty extensive, so it would be a lot better list to send it out on,
Okay.
I think.
I mean, I could draft one every month, send it to Darby, and then Gary, you could approve it and we could send it out if you guys want to arrange it that way. It depends on what you guys think of doing that. Just, I mean, it doesn't mean that more people will come or not. I just think it gives the press a chance to say, hey, this is what's happening at Police Advisory, and it gives people a chance to think about coming to our meetings, especially on topics that may be of interest to them.
The other thing related to that is, I don't know how much like the videos get watched, but
Yeah.
even if the press release is out there, even if people can't come, it's like, well, the video's up there too. It means
Right.
to
Yeah.
draw attention to that as well, you know?
Yes, we could say that these will be posted in that press release and have that as a continual thing, but, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the press will run with it and put something out there, but you never know. I think it's worth doing, and the Police Basin Aquifer Committee often submits press releases for things, and it can get a lot of people to reach out and come to our meetings, so.
Good idea.
Yeah, if you guys are okay, I don't think we need a motion or anything, I just think.
I think it's a good idea.
Yep.
Okay, all right. I know you guys are okay. I know that adds one more step of workload for this for you guys, but,
No, I think it's good.
okay. All right. Great. Well then, Gary, Chief Jenkins, I will pass it off to you to go over our police department update, the 2017 annual report.
So actually, our presentation originally scheduled for tonight was going to be Jeff Guillory from WSU, from Cultural Diversity Office, and he was unable to make it tonight. So we're going to reschedule him for a later time. So that's why he got stuck with me. So this report did go out to each of you when this was first presented to City Council, I think by way of a PDF and email. So this is the actual hard copy. And what I plan to do is I'm just going to go through and hit a few of the highlights, but I'd be happy to expound on any area that you want me to or answer any questions that you have as well. So let's start on page 5. So it used to be that Well, in fact, many police departments do report what are called UCR numbers. So that may be a term you've heard before, which is Uniform Crime Reporting. And actually, back on page 3, there's a couple of paragraphs that discuss Uniform Crime Reporting, and then also the National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIBRS. NIBRS is a newer, more thorough way of reporting crime, and there's been a move to move all law enforcement agencies to NIBRS, and actually by 2021, the FBI will discontinue supporting the old UCR reporting and only support NIBRS. Washington State has been a leader in this area, and I think we have in Washington State, I have in here, I think the percentage, we have a very high percentage of agencies already reporting with NIBRS. And the main difference between the two was in the UCR system is when you had one event and you had multiple crimes in that event, and say you had a robbery and a homicide and a burglary and a kidnapping, it would only record the most serious crime. So it would record one crime, which was the most serious. In the NIBRS reporting, it would record all of them. So you would document all of those crimes that occurred. So it's a lot more thorough and a lot more accurate. So with that said, on page 5, these are NIBRS numbers, and they break them down into persons, property, and society. Those are the 3 sections there, and then the Group A offenses are the ones that we report to them, to the FBI. So you can look at these numbers as you'd like. The only one that I pointed out to council was under Group A offenses property, the second one listed there, burglary. There was a lot of concern this past year, or during 2017, about burglaries that were occurring in residential neighborhoods. But if you look at the numbers, we actually had a 36% decrease in burglaries that occurred citywide during the year. So even though there were some that did cause concern that we still worked to address, overall we did have a decrease in burglaries.
Does NIBRS, are these statistics just for your jurisdiction or the city of Pullman?
What do you mean?
It's
WSU.
versus you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, WSU it would report separately.
All right, yeah, so if there was a burglary in a residential hall on WSU property, it wouldn't be included
Would
in
not
this?
show up in ours, correct, yeah. Yeah, and we're unusual in that regard with respect to most jurisdictions, because even though WSU is located within the city of Pullman, they report separately.
Do you know if their numbers were also down
I
last
don't know
year?
what their numbers are. But their burglary issue is much different than ours. You're talking
Yeah,
about residential halls, not so much residences.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, I think, impact on campus than it is in the city. And then if you take a look on page 6, just 2 different ways to represent all of those numbers, so you can get an idea of the overall crime picture, and then it's broken down with the different colors of property, persons, and society. And obviously our property crimes are the largest numbers that we have, which is typical for most jurisdictions, because you're talking about thefts and those types of things, which are in a lot higher numbers than crimes against persons, which are assaults and robberies. And then on the next page, on page 7, these just provide a lot of different numbers on our activity during the year. I'll point out a couple here on the top section under total calls for service. We had they were up 598, or a 5% increase from the previous year. And you can see that they're other than 2011 to 12, they've been consistently going up in the past few years. The other trends that I'll note are parking problems are trending up, traffic collisions are trending up, and welfare checks are also trending up. And the welfare check increase, I think, is probably a reflection of something that's good. I think some of this has to do with recent attention to suicide and suicide prevention and the concern for other people and to get involved. And so we think this is a good thing by having this increase. Page 8 lists some of our grants. One of the grants at the very bottom of page 8 is our in-car camera system. Back in 2013, we implemented our body-worn camera system, and we had an old, aging in-car camera system that was becoming too costly to maintain. And so we discontinued our in-car cameras and went to solely body-worn cameras. We're now implementing brand-new body-worn cameras that are made by the same manufacturer as or new in-car cameras that are made by the same manufacturer as our body-worn cameras. And so they work together, they're compatible, it uses all the same type of video management software, and so it made it very easy to implement. So we'll have those, we actually implemented that to all of our patrol cars a couple of months ago. Page 10, under training, I'll point out the third one listed there. It's the Domestic Violence Lethality Assessment Program. And this is in cooperation with Alternatives to the Violence of the Police. And we're doing this also with the County Sheriff's Department and Washington State University Police Department. And it's an assessment tool our officers use when they are investigating a domestic violence that helps identify the victims who, based on past cases nationwide, would be more likely to be a victim of further serious abuse or even homicide. And so those persons are screened in to ATVP, meaning that we put them in direct contact with a person at ATVP to provide assistance to that person immediately if they decide to take that assistance. And so we've had this in place, I think we started it around June or July of last year. Also last year in February, we trained all of our officers on the use of Narcan, which is an anti-opioid drug. It's actually a nasal spray that you can administer to someone who's unconscious, who has overdosed, and it will most cases revive someone who's overdosed on an opioid. The good part about this drug is that it does no harm if it wasn't an opioid. So our officers don't necessarily have to provide any kind of diagnosis if someone has the symptoms of being on an opioid overdose, then they would administer it. And if the person wasn't, then it's not going to harm them at all. So we haven't yet had to deploy this, but we have it available. We're lucky that we are in a city where the fire department has very quick response times. So a lot of times they're there very soon after we arrive, but we have it there if we need it. On page 11, the top of the page, the Rescue Task Force. This is with regard to active shooters, and the tactics for active shooters are continually evolving. And I'll go back to Columbine High School. When law enforcement responded there, they essentially set up a perimeter and waited for the SWAT team to arrive. And we all know what happened while that was happening, is there were a lot of students that were killed. But they were following what the current tactics were for law enforcement nationwide for active shooters. So since then, law enforcement has moved to having deploying officers immediately upon arrival at a scene to try to engage and neutralize a threat at an active shooter scene. And then this is another step in that process. This really came out of, I think it was in Aurora, Colorado, at the movie theater, where there were a number of people shot, and a lot of people died from loss of blood because they didn't get medical help quickly enough while the scene was being managed. And so what this does is we train the fire department and our officers to get medics into what we would call a warm zone. So not necessarily a hot zone where shots are being fired, but an area that is partially cleared so that we think we can get medics in to provide life-saving support to someone and then extricate them to give them advanced support. So that's just kind of another step in this evolution of responding to active shooters. Page 16, or I'm sorry, page 12 covers the Quad Cities Drug Task Force. We typically will have an officer assigned to this task force that is comprised of the Washington State Patrol, Whitman County Sheriffs, Moscow PD, Clarkston PD, however, because of our staffing levels right now, we do have this position vacant. So as soon as we are able to hire enough people to get back to full staffing, then we'll replace our position here on the task force. Page 17 at the top is public records request. We had been seeing huge increases from year to year in public records requests. However, from 2016 to 2017, we saw a 35% reduction. I don't know if that's going to last, but in any case, now with body-worn camera video and in-car camera video, there is additional staff time required to not just identify and provide records to people that make public records requests, but also to redact the information that's required to be redacted before we release video to the public. And then at the bottom of page 17 talks about our drone program. We have 4 drones that really so far we've used. We used the attempt to locate someone who fled from a traffic stop that Washington State Patrol made. We didn't locate the person, but we're able to conduct a search in probably 1/10 the time that it would have taken officers to conduct that search. So we're able to get the search done and officers back out on the street in much shorter amount of time. And we use it for SWAT training and riot training. We've also used it with Washington State University during, before and after WSU football games to help with traffic management. So we have a lot of plans to use this more in the future with tactical events with the SWAT team, more events on patrol, and also when we have weather events such as flooding, we can do collect a lot of information quickly with the drone. Bottom of page 18, something that we added to our social media was an Instagram account last year. Page 21, a couple of ordinances that we introduced and council passed. One was the ATV ordinance, which allows ATVs to be operated on city streets with speed limits of 35 miles an hour or less, as long as the ATVs are registered. And then also the College Hill Core parking restrictions, which we restrict parking overnight during WSU breaks in the College Hill Core area, which facilitates the removal of snow and gravel and leaves during those times of the year. Page 23, taxi licensing. That was another ordinance where the council made a significant change to our taxi ordinance that essentially has allowed Uber and Lyft and similar type companies to operate in Pullman. And that's all I was going to go over. I'd be happy to answer any questions or talk more on any of the topics that are.
We're not going to go over the increase in Facebook likes at Darby's.
Darby does a fantastic job on our social media, and we do have a very vibrant social media presence with Facebook and Instagram and our nextdoor.com, and
We're everywhere.
we're everywhere every day.
What is this picture on the bottom right of page 11?
Well, so that is Halloween, and that's our school resource officer. And he's got his Halloween costume on, ready to go work with the students at the schools. And what character is that?
Well, that's Buzz Lightyear.
Buzz Lightyear.
I did not know that.
And Bill Holman at the school was dressed as Woody, so they were perfect.
That's
Yeah.
I just have to say, I think this is the only city I've ever heard that there's a significant event of couch fires.
You have lived in Morgantown.
Debbie, it's your tradition.
Spare couches.
Do they have those at,
Just
over in
constant.
Moscow? Yeah.
Haven't-
Never in
haven't heard-
Moscow.
I mean, I haven't heard of any, but,
So it's a Pullman virus.
you know, and I think we had it like one year, at least since I've been here, and
Couch is stacked.
Hopefully not anymore.
hopefully it's not a tradition.
Well, yeah, usually when we're good, haven't sucked lately, so maybe it will become a tradition.
One thing I was curious, the taxi licensing thing. So I assume that from being on when we talked about it before, I assume they changed the background.
Well, one of the major points on changing it had to do with using fingerprints for a background check.
Okay, right.
Because initially, when the tax ordinance was created, we did not do fingerprint-based backgrounds.
Yeah.
We did backgrounds without fingerprints. And then we implemented that later. And then that kind of became one of the main areas of contention. And I did a significant amount of research, and I mean, my conclusion was that that we wouldn't create any more risk for the public by not using the fingerprint background, partly because of some of the issues involving fingerprints nationwide with law enforcement agencies and having up-to-date and good information and the ability to be able to verify someone's identity without their fingerprints.
So what I was curious is, in the past, you had to do all the fingerprint testing, right, or not?
Well, we would collect the prints, but then they would be transmitted electronically to the state.
Okay.
And then they run a check and we get the results back.
Okay. So now, do you not have to handle any of that?
We
risk?
don't. There's a requirement that the their taxi companies go through a third party that meets certain criteria to do backgrounds that are licensed by a nationally accredited background organization. And as long as they go through an organization that's accredited, then we'll accept the background.
And so then all the local ones do the same thing?
Right, yeah. And actually, the disqualifying events for taxi drivers is more stringent under the new regulation than it was under the old taxi ordinance.
Gary, one of the other issues that came up here besides the taxi licensing was the ATV ordinance. And there were a few folk who were very concerned that that was going to be problematic. Has it been?
It hasn't been, and, in all actuality, there were people operating ATVs to provide snow clearing services for individuals and businesses. And it was really something that was a needed service, and it was one of those things where it was not before we had the ordinance that allowed it, it was something we were not strictly enforcing so that those services could be provided. So this was a good way really to allow those services to continue lawfully.
One other question, have you seen, being around occasionally I see like a UTV just driving on the streets or something, but have you seen much of that? Or not?
Occasionally. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of it,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
do see it now occasionally when I didn't see it before.
So I noticed that the alcohol intoxicated related number on page 7 is lower than it has been in, let's see, over 6 years. Do you have any anticipation or
Well,
idea?
that number can be deceiving because those numbers are really derived, some of those numbers are based on call for service, but also some of those numbers are derived from officer-initiated activity,
Okay.
which means when we're at lower staffing, the officers don't have time to engage in that type of enforcement. So that will make those numbers go down sometimes. So it's a little bit difficult to tell from these numbers alone whether that activity has changed at all or is going up or down, mainly because it can be impacted by our staffing.
DUIs.
I assume that on number 5, on page 5, the drug narcotics offense drop off from 2012 to 2013 was the legalization.
Yeah, a lot of that is from the marijuana enforcement.
What year was it that marijuana became legal?
It was, when was it,
2013.
Yeah.
According to this chart.
You know, and the other impact of that is we would get calls regularly at multi-unit housing residences where someone was complaining about marijuana in an adjoining, and so we could write a search warrant and address it, and many times we'd find other types of drugs there besides marijuana. So now it's a landlord-tenant issue. It's not a law enforcement issue anymore.
I was just curious because in the Quad Cities Drug Task Force numbers, 2017 is the only one where no marijuana was seized. And so is that just because, say, someone was arrested for something else, it still gets seized, or?
They're not concentrating on necessarily marijuana
Right.
violations anymore. They're
That makes sense,
concentrating
right.
on other crimes, so that's why that number's so low. There's still an underground marijuana market for sure, but it's just not, it's something that they're not putting an emphasis on.
Right, right.
Any other questions before we move on here? Thank you, Chief Jenkins, for that. I appreciate that. So, just quickly before we jump into the voting of the vice chair position and discussion, I just wanted to bring up this really quickly. Eric, if you wouldn't mind telling us about
Well,
the identity theft.
I had a question as far as for possible future subject. I don't remember having done identity theft before. Do you remember?
I don't think a presentation hearing,
Yeah.
no, I don't think we
Okay.
have.
I just thought it might be something that would be, well, pertinent, you know, helpful for people. There was this day when they had the document shredding thing up at Gladys or whatever. My mom had brought stuff there and picked up, there's a flyer from, it's his Crime Victim Service Center or something, that was about identity theft, and I saw this, like, hey, that's something maybe we could, you know, have here. So I don't know if you're familiar with that place, or if you know someone who might be able to come and talk about prevention.
Yeah, we have people in-house that can come and
Oh,
talk
okay.
about it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I just thought it might be great to get out there, so.
Yeah.
That would be great to add to our list, and we currently have a list of, let's see, did I see the Community Action Center? I'm not sure I see that on this list, but I think we had discussed Community Action Center. The one that we were gonna have today but had to move was the Culturally Responsive Sensitive Policing. Have a discussion on DARE. Code enforcement is something we decided we should talk about annually, so if people have questions about code enforcement, they can come here and do that as an annual discussion. College Hill things, the report we just talked about, homeless in need resources, College Hill Association.
The homeless, that's the CAC, right?
Yeah, okay, yep, maybe that was that, okay. And then the drugs recognition expert and drug task force officer. So those are our upcoming topics, and if you guys ever have ideas like Eric did, just feel free to bring them to the table and we can make sure we add them to the
And the
future.
coroner also was another one.
Oh yeah, the corner.
Did you?
Yeah, that was my idea. I was like, oh, I thought that was quite interesting, having that person to come and talk.
Yeah.
And College Hill Association.
Did I miss the corner on this list? Okay, I'll make sure that's added. Okay. All right, so thank you, Eric. Now, we're gonna have a discussion about the vice chair position. So we had first had 3 people interested, which is fabulous. Well, sorry, I don't think Eric said he was interested. He was just nominated by many people. Which is great because like when I became the chairperson of this position, you know, when Arlene said, all right, who's interested in becoming the chairperson? I'm out of here. I'm leaving for a while. And nobody stepped up. And I had been on the committee for, I believe, 3 months. And then was nominated on my birthday. So it was a good birthday gift. And here I've been since, almost 3 years later. So now we have a lot of interest in the chair position. And now we still have 2 names in the running for that. So we have Eric, and then we have Stephanie. And Eric's been on the committee
Longer than you were.
yeah, a long time.
It's been like 5 years, or 4 years, 5 years, something like that. I don't know. I don't have dates, so.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't gone back in minutes and checked, sorry. So, maybe we should just have them briefly discuss their interest in the vice chair position and maybe some ideas they have about taking over that position. And then we can have a discussion about it and go ahead and have a vote. Does that work for everybody, that structure? Gary, is that pretty traditional?
That sounds fine to me.
All right, great. All right, so Eric, go ahead. I should say, actually, before, is that you were nominated. I believe Barb nominated Eric.
I did.
Yes, okay.
I guess I've been here a while. I've pretty much come all the time, and I've been able to. I've opportunities come up for me to fill in for Corey a couple of times, so I'm happy to run meetings and all that stuff. Guess I'm fairly well. Instead of saying fairly involved, but it depends. I come like I've gone to the Lentil Festival and stuff like that. I guess it's sort of like when I do something, I sort of like to be involved, be in, and see this as an opportunity to continue that. So, but if you have questions, I'm not the kind of person who goes sucks myself up. So.
We thought you did that all the time.
But yeah, I don't know. If you have any questions, ask.
Well, we definitely appreciate everything you've done, and being able to cover for me has been great. Our current vice chairperson, Charlene, had some, unfortunately, she was sick, so she wasn't able to come for a while, so we've decided to move her out of the chair position, vice chair position, and nominate a new chair position. So, and then Stephanie, can we hear from you just a second? Is that okay?
Yes, so I'm interested in the vice chair position. I would like to take on a little bit more leadership with this, being the vice chair. I have several leadership opportunities right now through WSU and a private organization, and it's just another thing that I would like to do. Just like Eric, when I do something, I want to take on more and be a benefit to the committee and help our chair with different topics and different things to bring to the council.
Great. Any discussion? That makes it difficult, doesn't it? Can we have 2 vice chairs?
What's the chair want the position to do?
That'd be a good question.
So, it's been a while since I've had the chair position, so Darby's kind of been acting.
Darby, what do you want?
Darby's been filling a lot of the void. And maybe, I mean, Gary's been doing a lot of this stuff too, but, you know, there are times when we have interviews for people to get new people on the committee, and there have been times I haven't been able to make it, and it's pretty important for either the vice chair or chairperson to make it to interviews to help facilitate that with Chief Jenkins. annually, there's a piece in the annual report that talks about the committee and what we've been up to the last year. Darby's done a lot of the legwork on that, but it's always important to kind of just give your feedback on that and think about anything that we could be doing better. Another thing that I would say the vice chairperson would do is anytime we have an event, like for instance, like the Art Walk or Lentil Festival, I always volunteer for the whole thing, and I'm there the whole time. But it would be great if either the vice chair and the chairperson can kind of split that a little bit and kind of take that in legs, and of course have two people there and hopefully other committee members there. More thorough review of the minutes. Most committee members read it, but I think it's the vice chair and chair position to actually go through the minutes and make sure that everything's accurate as to what was said in the meeting. Not that you're going to find anything, but and I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm missing. And every once in a while, so Wednesday and Thursday we're doing interviews, and typically Chief Jenkins and Darby will send out an email asking the chairperson to participate in interviews to hire on either new officers or anybody within the department. And if the chairperson isn't available, they typically will go to the vice chairperson. If that person's not available, they'll go to the committee, someone on the committee. But it would be great to know that person may be interested in spending a couple extra volunteer hours helping with interviews and things like that when they can find availability to do that. Do you guys think I've missed anything key here?
Sounds like.
It's a pretty
If you're gonna
lenient-
start adding things like marketing for the public releases, it'd be helpful to have someone with that workload too, so it doesn't just fall on Darby.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do the draft press release, and I can always send it to the vice chair first, and that's, I mean, or go over it with the vice chair and then send it off to them. I don't want to put all that burden on them, and I write them all the time anyway. But yeah, so that's definitely a good thing to put in there. I think I should write this up, the roles and duties a little bit more, because it's changed over the years, and make it more specific to
There's
what.
sort of a sense, I think, you gotta say, what are your duties? And then the vice chair is supposed to help you with those, right?
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, it makes sense to split some things up because it's not all on you unless you can't do it,
Right.
But there's also the point of, well, if you normally do something and you can't, then you want someone to be able to step in and do it,
Right,
So, for sure.
And it's pretty laid back, and I think that
Yeah.
those things are the main things: the interviews, the being there for interviews for people joining on the committee. I think now that we're doing these press releases, having those second pair of eyes on there would be
Yeah.
great. And generally, just keeping active on the committee and attendance. I guess attendance is the best thing. So, maybe missed 2 meetings tops a year would be great. That kind of thing. Me.
So we're gonna pass out just some paper with that you can write either Eric or Stephanie's name on, and then Darby will collect them and count them.
Before, I just have one
Yes.
question as well, and if either of you don't, it's okay, but if either of you have a specific or multiple goals that you want to achieve or work toward as vice chair, if elected?
So that's a good question, especially since I wasn't really prepared to make a speech. So I mean, I would say my goals is to bring more awareness, and then also bring in more topics that might be better covered for the public, and just different things. So that would be my goals.
I guess on my side, I see it, I mean, obviously is to help out Corey on all the things she does. And like Stephanie said, I mean, part of that is if we think of if we can come up with any topics, I mean, that's always helpful. Broadly, I see it just, help out, be there to help out, fill in, do what, like you mentioned, interviews, some of those things, just help out there, so.
Thank you both.
Guess you
Want us
guys
to
get to
vote?
vote.
Sure.
I'm gonna use your pen.
Excuse me, I just have a question because I am new. How many years have you been in this committee?
Committee?
Yes.
Well, it's been 4 to 5 years for me.
Longer than me.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
How long have you been on the committee?
Oh, I've been on since last fall, so just
Yeah.
about a year.
Are we like passing them your way, Darby?
You want me to
or
come?
what are we gonna?
I could.
You wanna put it in a hat and just pick those?
I should have brought it.
In the time that you guys have seen the committee, has there ever been a written vote before, or is it like?
I think this is the.
I've never seen one and I've
Done it.
been here. It's
That's what I wanted to before.
Yeah.
We had one.
Okay.
Well,
a written vote.
to be honest, we've never ever had, I've never been here with a contested vote.
Yeah.
I don't think.
It's good to be running against a great person.
Oh, okay.
So,
Because I remember nobody wanting to do it before, so this is great. I see good future
well, it's like,
prospects.
did Justin do it? Was he on with, before
Arlene?
you?
He was with Arlene.
Yes, but he
Okay.
didn't want to move to the chair position.
Right, I know.
Nobody did. I wanted the vice chair position too.
Before we get the announcement, I think either candidate would be quite acceptable.
Right.
And
Both would be great.
maybe we should have settled it by a flip of a coin.
Yeah.
I don't know, by the job duties so far, I feel like that should be everybody on the
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You need to come up with higher level qualifications or responsibilities.
Okay, do we want the good news or the bad news?
Oh,
It is gonna be.
It's a tie.
Okay, who has the coin now, right?
I don't know what the tiebreaker is.
I actually have one.
But we could have co-chairs. I mean, does that make it too complicated for knowing who to go to for backup?
I think it should be a trivia contest, that should be the battle.
Here's a question. The notion of co-chairs shares the load even further, right?
Right.
I mean,
I would do co-chairs. with
that's
like
not
Brad.
bad,
I think
just saying.
I'm just trying to think if there's anything in the bylaws on that. I don't think so.
Well, we don't have a provision for
Yeah, we don't.
co-chairs.
Yeah. Really, you guys?
So-
You couldn't do any better than that.
I've suggested options to break the tie and no one's going to go with them, so.
I lost.
I don't think
Draw
it.
straws.
Well,
Say
it
what
might
we
be,
do.
yeah,
guys,
actually,
this is-
Does
With the inflatable sumo suits, that's what we
does the policy give any requirements?
We're
on
gonna
it?
see.
actually, I think what we may have to do is if there's both the primary member and alternate member here, then only the primary member would have a vote.
Yep.
which is good because they're both
Oh.
primary.
Well, except for me, right?
Everybody,
Okay, right, so
So the,
Matt's not here, Greg's not here, Bill's not here. So Philip and Adam.
And me, take me, my vote away.
Technically Corey.
so you take
Yeah.
my vote out?
well,
I think
okay.
Corey,
For the
because she's
purpose,
the chair.
for the purposes of committee officer elections only, every committee member who is physically present at the election meeting will be eligible to vote, regardless of whether they are a primary or alternate representative, so forget what I said.
So that doesn't help us.
So you've never
So
had
then
my
does it say there's a tie? Tabulated by,
What officer positions are there?
Does it?
There's just chair and
I think this needs to be in the minutes.
Vice
This
chair.
definitely has to hit the minutes.
yeah, it doesn't say anything about a tie.
Secretary.
good. Well, Darby is,
Well, I got them on my phone, the bylaws.
It doesn't say anything about.
well, does anybody want to do any more campaigning and we can vote again?
You always have to run off election.
I don't have a problem if we want to make a provision for two co-chairs, or we can vote again next meeting.
Okay. I say we either do that, we either We could do that, or we could have people email in their vote, I guess, for people who weren't here, but that would go against the
It
bylaws.
sounded like people had to be present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't have them in front of me. Can I just make a motion then that we do co-chairs?
I'd second
Someone
that.
wants to do a second and then, or discussion, because I think the way you described it, co-chairs fits perfectly with what you're asking them to do. You need backup for what you need.
Gosh, I went from having no chair to co-chairs. All right. This is great.
Amendment of the bylaws.
Yeah, so what I would recommend is that we send out the bylaws, and I don't know if you want to put a subcommittee together, but come back next meeting with some proposed changes to the bylaws,
Okay,
and then we can vote on that.
okay. I will take care of that.
Sounds like a good idea.
Maybe you still.
Yeah. Can I put the coach chairs in charge of that?
Whoever
Well,
comes
have we
back
been
with
voted in
the
yet
best.
though?
We don't have it
Yeah.
on the website.
We just get together.
It's actually not even bylaws, it's what's called our committee mission and guidelines. Because this is not a commission, it's a committee.
Yeah.
So we can kind of make the rules up as we go along.
Yeah, I always call them bylaws, but yeah, technically they are not. You guys have made this a long process.
It's actually, I think it'll be a good idea to look at these
Yes.
again and update them.
Yeah.
So you'll send those out to all of us then?
Yeah.
I'll email them.
And then I don't know how you want to do that, Corey. You just want people to send you suggestions, or do you want to get a group of people together to meet, talk
Why
about
doesn't
it?
anyone who's interested in meeting, send me an email, and I'll send out a doodle poll, and I'll reserve a room at the Daily Grind, and we can just go sit down and talk about it. Is that okay? All right. Great. Okay. All right.
Committee on committees.
I'll bring the book, How to Run Effective Meetings.
All right, so now that that is done, kind of, sort of, not really.
Now that we've created more work for
More
ourselves.
work.
This went really well.
So we have the GPSA constituency proposal. Gary, Chief Jenkins, have you heard anything from the GPSA again?
No.
Okay.
Do you want me to ask
Have
them
we?
about that tomorrow by chance?
Yeah, so I had talked to them about this before, and they had somebody coming to the meetings for a little while. But I think they would like to have a seat on the committee, and I think we need to coordinate some sort of interaction with them to see who they might want. And are they off of Monday evenings now, or are they still on Monday evenings?
Their Senate technically is on Mondays, I believe, yes.
Okay, all right. So sometimes there would be conflict.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if they'd want their president to be sitting on it because he doesn't have to go to the Senate meetings, or a member of their executive staff. Were you speaking with Amir by chance, or David?
Last time I was there when Melanie Thornton was the president, but I mean, so it's been a while. But I got a couple of emails from people on the committee, or from GPSA, and I'd have to look back at the names to be certain. But just interest in joining the committee and having somebody sit on the committee.
And then a follow-up question, I apologize. Would that be something that a new position would have to be made within the constituency or within the guidelines, or would that?
We would create a new position, and that would just be for GPSA. And obviously, that would be an appointed position like ASWSU, where GPSA wouldn't appoint somebody to sit on the committee, and we would accept, obviously, whoever they would recommend. And that would be something that would have to be voted on at the next meeting if we had enough people interested within GPSA.
Yeah, I'll talk to them tomorrow.
Great, thank you so much for doing that. All right, so Chief Jenkins, I'm going to pass it back to you for police department update.
Okay. So we previously talked about some vacancies at the police department. One was one last records vacancy. We have completed a background, and I will be making a job offer tomorrow. And so if they accept that job offer, hopefully they'll be starting before the end of the month. And we'll have be fully staffed in records. We had 2 police officer vacancies. Well, we actually have 6 now, but anyway, we had 2 when we were still at 30, authorized 30 staff. We're ready to hire 2 new officers that were going to begin the academy in Spokane August 7th. However, the state canceled that academy, and so they're going to redistribute them into the academies in Seattle. So they'll be in one of the academy classes between now and December. We haven't heard yet which academy class they're going to be in.
Why'd they cancel it? Not enough
They
people?
didn't, well, I haven't gotten clarification as, I believe it was just low attendance,
Really?
but it's surprising to me because a lot of the agencies are complaining about not having enough academy classes, and all the academy classes through December were full, so if somebody really wanted someone in the academy, they could send them to Spokane.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what's happening there, but.
So do they not have classes in Spokane at all now?
Well, they usually have either 1 or 2 a year.
Yeah.
And it's still run technically by the state.
Yeah.
So yes, this year then they'll have none in Spokane. But we send someone to the academy just based on timing, so even if they're having one in Spokane, if there's a sooner one on the west side of the state, we'll send them there just to get them through earlier. So anyway, we're going to wait to hear. Those officers are still on our list to be hired, but it's going to just be dependent upon what academy class they get assigned to. Today was Officer Matt Burkett's last day of work. He and his family are moving to Alaska. And so we're completing a background on his replacement. And so if that candidate is successful in his background, then we'll enter him in for another academy class, which now would not be starting until after the first of the year. And then the City Council recently approved the addition of 3 police officer positions, and so we're doing a continuous police officer recruitment to help fill those. Our first round of interviews are going to be this Wednesday and Thursday, and Corey, as Corey mentioned, she's going to be part of that interview panel. And we'll see how many viable candidates we get out of those interviews, but we're aiming at this point for 3 more. And then, of course, we're expecting some more retirements in the next couple of years, and so we want to continue the recruitment and still have a good list, so we're ready to hire someone when we lose another person. We have 3 code enforcement officers. One of them, Emily Johns, is going to be moving out of the area, and so she submitted her resignation. And so I'll be going to the Civil Service Commission because they have to authorize a recruitment for hiring. And so I'll be going to them, and we'll do another recruitment for that position. On Saturday, June 16th, we participated in what's called a Touch a Truck event at Pullman Christian School. They've been having that every year. And so we sent a code enforcement officer and their truck and a police officer in one of our SUVs, and fire department's there, and a lot of city trucks are there. And so members of the community are invited. There were lots of kids there, and it looked like it was a really good event. On June 21st, Officer Gordon attended the local emergency planning committee meeting in Colfax and did a demonstration of one of our drones and how it might be used in emergency management. On Saturday, June 30th, we also participated in the Community Safety Fair, and that was at WSU Visitor Center. And one of our code enforcement officers was there with her vehicle, and also she's certified to do child safety seat inspections, and she did some of those. And then Officer Gordon was there to talk about the police department and also demonstrated our drone there. You heard me talk about the new parking fines that City Council passed recently, and those went into effect July 1st. Coming up is annually we hold in conjunction with the Liquor and Cannabis Board, training for local liquor and cannabis license holders in Pullman, just to go over the regulations for them as licensees and to provide any support we can to help them be in compliance with liquor and cannabis laws. So that's on July 18th at Pullman High School in their theater. Every year, we're invited to read at the library, and so Officers Engel, Lambley, Sontgrath, and I will be at the library on July 19th at 10:30 a.m. reading to children. And then nationally, there's an event called National Night Out, and we haven't really been active in that event, mainly due to staffing issues. We were contacted by a person who's representing the Pullman 2040 movement as well as the chamber. And they wanted to do something this year, and so we agreed to work with them on that event. And so actually, this is something that I was hoping that maybe the Police Advisory Committee could help with. And what they want to do is have some type of an event on each hill in the city. So have 4 different events and just have it, nothing really elaborate, just kind of be low key where neighbors would bring some things to barbecue and they would just get together and meet. And I try to send a member of my staff to each of those places and talk about safety or crime prevention. And so that's coming up here. That's before our next meeting. So what I'll do is I'll send out some more details when I have it. And then if anybody is interested in helping out with that, it's really just having a presence at an event. Say you're from the Police Advisory Committee, and basically to let them know that what you do and that you're there as a liaison between the police department and the community, and so you can bring forward any concerns that they might have.
What night is that?
That's a Tuesday night,
What day?
August 6th.
So speaking of events, we wouldn't have it by then, but probably by Lentil Fest. Do you want to see about T-shirts? Who needs those? Do we want to order more?
Oh,
We want to order more.
Police Advisory
Police
Committee shirts?
Advisory.
Yeah, so in fact, we could probably find out from people tonight what we need to get, right?
Yeah, or I can send out the sizing chart.
Yeah,
for sure.
so we do have Police Advisory Committee shirts. Some of you have them and some of you don't. And so we want to get some to you that don't have them, but we're going to have to order them and hopefully, and get them before Lentil Festival.
Yeah,
Right.
if we get it in this week, hopefully we can get them.
So how do you want to do that?
So I guess the easiest thing maybe would be, I'll just send the email out to everyone so you can disregard it if you already have a shirt. And I'll attach the sizing charts. So then if you need one, just reply to me, let me know what size you need for your t-shirt. We'll try to get them before Lentil Fest.
If you happen to have the old version, can you get the new version?
Yes. Yeah. When she was when she was doing the art walk, we discovered that I only had like one size of the new shirt or whatever. So she had to wear the old style of polo. So.
Which I called
Yes.
claim on that old one.
Yes.
I think it's time I get one of the old ones now.
Yes, but I will send that out. So just let me know. If I don't hear from you, I will assume you already have a shirt. So if you
How much
need
would
one,
it cost to put together name tags for people? So as people come up to you and you introduce yourself, they actually have your name or something.
It'll probably just be handy to.
I mean, we could do that. If we're in a tight budget, you know.
I think it'd be better to not have you say name tag, something you pin on.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
removable.
If you
Yeah,
get
we
the-
we can have some of those made with either like a magnet or a pin type of a thing that will go in the shirt. Is that what you were going to say?
They're like $9 from Northwest Engraving.
Okay. All right.
Where do you get them?
Northwest Engraving. We had to order new ones
Where's
today.
that?
I
Oh,
think
is it
that
like
was
a
in
mail order
Costco.
kind of a
Yeah,
thing?
I've gone there before. It's pretty good, yeah.
Because we use locally Precision Engraving, which is the local engraver.
Yeah,
but
so
they're
we use
in
Precision, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like $9.
Yeah, we could do stickers too. That's better. Whatever is more convenient for you guys. I mean, I should have one that's gold framed. With handcuffs on it, please.
I want handcuffs with diamonds.
Okay. Well, you had to one up me, didn't
That's
you?
more than $9.
She's the new vice chair, I don't think.
Co-vice chair.
Yeah, co-vice chair.
Co-vice chair, yeah. I mean, you need good diamonds too.
So that was the last item I had.
Okay, thank you so much. So at this point, we're going to go around and do our constituencies polls. So what we typically do for this is we just go around and we say our representation. And we usually start with Richard, but now we have a new person at the end here, so
Why don't
it's
we
great.
start over there so that he can see what they've done?
Yes. I almost know, you're messing up my routine of picking on the new guys.
We've completely messed up for Holly.
This is why I'm not vice chair. I do this. I'm just a voice.
All right, well, then I guess Nathan, it's on you now. So we're just going to go around, we say our representation area. You can talk specifically to your area, so let's say you're a College Hill person, you can talk specifically on that, but you're really welcome to talk about anything in the community that you're noticing is going on. People sometimes bring up concerns like, when is a traffic light going in, or they notice areas of pedestrian traffic issues. Anything really that you can think of is that you can bring up at this meeting. So go ahead.
Nathan Dean, alternative for Pullman School District parents. School's out for the summer. So
You stole my line.
See, this is why we should go.
And I'm working on getting a replacement for Bill Holm.
Yeah.
We're not usually this goofy. It's just.
It's because there's a camera.
I was gonna sing it.
I'm Phyllis Stallcop. I'm the Sunnyside Hill representative, and I really have nothing to report about my hill, but I drove from Dismore's clear out to Weissett Motors today, and I saw 3 people in front of me run red lights. They were red by the time they went through, and then next light, I just thought it was really odd. Occasionally I'll see one, but today I saw 3, and I'm basically right behind them. I didn't get license numbers or anything, but I just thought that was really interesting to witness 3, and they were totally red by the time they.
If your car was black and white, they wouldn't be doing that.
It's white, but yeah. So, anyway, that's.
I'm Barbara Hammond, College Hill, and nothing really to report.
Corey Woodley, and I'm in Business Alternative right now, and I was just gonna ask, I know that last year about this time we had a discussion about Center Street and Grand and a light potentially going in there. Is that actually happening this summer?
I don't think it's happening this summer, but I know it's planned. I just don't know the exact time.
You said it would happen this
Did
summer.
I say this summer?
Yes, you did.
Then
It's
it'll
in the
happen
minutes,
this
isn't it,
summer.
Darby?
I don't know, I'd have to check my
No,
notes.
we're gonna check it.
I motion to have that.
Oh, yeah, I'll correct those minutes.
At least a 3-way stop,
Well, they do have a traffic light plan for that intersection. I
And
just don't recall
Do
the exact
plans
time.
last a couple years, or is this like a decade out? Or
No, it's a lot of it's, I think, through funding from the federal government, and so
Oh,
it's
okay, grants
all
and
planned
stuff,
on that.
okay.
On the capital budget took half a year just to think about.
Well, then my house is for sale. So, okay, nothing else.
I'm business, nothing to report or ask. So.
I just got back into town, so I have nothing to report.
Well, someone stole my line. So I can't say anything about school. No, I have a really bad voice. You don't want me to sing. So I don't have anything to report. So, school will be coming back in August, and my kids are going to be so sad, but I'm going to be so happy.
Angie Center, WSU faculty staff. WSU has record enrollment this year, so we've been steadily climbing, and we are starting to get to critical mass on what our support services can handle for our students, especially the freshman body. So we're actually bringing back some
currently vacant buildings in order to provide student housing. I know they're working like crazy, but we're gonna be a little bit crunched up there. And if you're trying to access campus, you might wanna bicycle in a goat trail because half of it's under construction right now.
Or
So
just not.
plan extra time and follow the detour signs.
I got on the campus okay, but getting off of campus was a different story.
Yeah.
I think it started today.
It started
Yeah,
today because I
Oh,
got
yeah.
on perfectly fine. and
Yeah, I
went to
found
leave
all the
here
detour
and went,
signs.
where am I going?
Moscow and then of course.
Yeah, pretty much. You just go up to police and then hang through Colfax.
Amy Newsbaum, Military Hill. I have nothing for Military Hill, though I'm really excited that those train tracks over by Davis are now out. So, snaps for that.
Savannah Rogers, ASWSU. Nothing that I can really think of right now other than Mary Jo Gonzalez and I were speaking earlier today, speaking about the video that former ASWSU President Jordan Frost did with an officer about driver safety, and hopefully working to have a new one created this year as well.
Richard Hume, Pioneer Hill. It's a real adventure on Bishop right now. They're resurfacing the bridge over Paradise and the bridge over the South Fork. Are they gonna, while they're doing that, are they gonna take the railroad tracks out there, do you know?
I don't think so. I think there's a set of tracks that could potentially still be used, and I think those are the tracks.
Well, they're not too
So-
bad, because they've got a
Yeah, I don't
special
think
surface there, but
Don't think
I was just wondering, since it's all torn up, if they were gonna go out.
Yeah, no, I think those are staying for now.
I'm a new member today. I don't have anything to report today, but we have like the start day, the start of school in Arabic school in the end of August, and I will be glad if I coming and invite you to this day and see activity and for our kids in here in school.
Yeah,
So
that would
I
be
will
great.
let you know when these happen exactly.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so our next meeting is Monday, August 13th, and I think that's all we have for today, because we are running out of time. Unless we have any public comment at all? You guys don't have anything fast?
Comments, Sarah?
All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Me?